Today is Saturday, September 20th, which means today is Batman Day. Now, I don't know when everyone in comics just decided that this was one of the biggest holidays of the year, followed by Free Comic Book Day, but it is. And in spirit of it, I want to talk about some Batman, because normally that's not really what we talk about here. And hey, I love the Cape Crusader as much as the next guy. But it wouldn't be a bunk video if I was just going over, Hush, Long Halloween, all the same stories that I've touched in this you probably already know about. I want to talk about some of my favorite Batman comics that feature some kind of twist on the regular Batman formula. And we're going to start what if Batman was a mental manifestation in a world where Batman was also a comic book character? That's right, we're talking about Batman Creature of the Night, written by Kurt Busiek and art by the amazing, I have so few other adjectives to describe Jean-Paul Leon's work. Taken Too Young's an amazing talent. This book is almost like a spiritual successor to Superman's Secret Identity, which I've talked about here as being my favorite Superman story before. It uses the same kind of formula, where it takes place basically in the real world, where Batman is a comic book character. There are not superheroes, there are not people in capes, there's no one who's flying around, there's no super crime. There's just Bruce Wayne doing the comic book thing, and it follows a young boy named Bruce Wainwright, who is really big fan of Batman and the Batman comics. As you might have guessed, it follows a similar formula to that. Bruce's parents are killed at an early age during a break-in to their home. He's raised going through there, except it doesn't have quite the nice sort of easy and wrapped up upbringing that our Bruce Wayne does. He's troubled. He has difficulty moving on. And maybe he's a little angry at the system. What follows is a story of a boy that follows the Batman formula through good and bad, not himself becoming Batman, but through sheer force of will and perseverance, mentally manifests a creature of the night, who becomes the Batman of this world. One of the first things that happens there is, after his parents' murder becomes a cold case, this Batman creature that he's manifested goes after and basically solves the murder on behalf of the police. And he's not really sure what's happening. He can just see through the eyes of this Batman creature, and all of this happens, and this continues throughout his life. As he goes on, there's some mirrors that happen with our knowledge of Batman, of the comic character. There's some other things that happen there. And maybe it all doesn't go so well. Maybe it turns out that Bruce's whatever connection he has with this Batman creature isn't actually making the world a better place. In fact, it might be making it a worse place. It's a lot of sort of self-reflection. It's a lot of examination of the Batman mythos and what the Batman character would look like in a real world. It's dark. It's moody. It's out there. It deals with mental health issues. It's a pretty fascinating read. This is not as good as Superman's Secret Identity. It's tough to reach those heights. I would say this is similar in tone to a Batman Ego. It doesn't quite reach that. It's tough when you're talking about Darwin Cook, but it is a fascinating book, and there's really not much else that's like this out there. Highly suggest you all give this one a read, if for nothing else, than to check out the amazing work of the late, great Jean-Paul Leon. Next up, we've got Batman, but if The Dark Knight Returns swapped universes with the Adam West Batman 66. Except it's not quite Batman because this is Ahoy Comics' The Wrong Earth. Written by the team of Tom Payer on art and Jamal Igle on art. It is exactly kind of what it says. And you basically have two different versions of the main character, Dragonfly Man, always bad at figuring out sides in these, who is the 1960s version of, if you've ever seen the Batman TV show with Adam West or read the Batman 66 comics that came out, that's this version of the character. Versus this one, who is very much a Dark Knight Returns modern interpretation where the character is violent, uses extreme methods in a world that is always gray and violent and gritty and over the top. And in pursuing a villain, these two versions of the character swap Earths. So you have the 1960s happy-go-lucky belief in a just system, Dragonfly Man going into a dark world full of grays where even the police are on the take and aren't the forces of good that he has been led to believe. And then on the flip side, you have Dragonfly, dropping the man, going to this version, where he's working with the local bank president and mayor to solve a trivia question, because the big bad guy Triviac is going to be striking at a trivia competition. And doggone it, they just can't solve the trivia question without Dragonfly Man's help. It's a basic premise that really kind of cuts into a lot of different factors of each of those characters and really comics in general. Kind of gets into a nurture versus nature situation. What causes a character in a world to be the way it does? So we end up getting this fascinating situation where we end up seeing the dark and hardened and embattled gritty version Dragonfly getting a little bit lighter and letting in some of the goodness of that sort of utopian world of the 1960s Batman, where the biggest wrong that might be happening is that someone's trying to cheat in a trivia contest. And on the flip side, we get to see the pure goodness of the 1960s version of the character go into the dark and gritty world of a Dark Knight Returns type and try and inflict his light and try and help the people around, even in a situation that seems hopeless. It doesn't always work that way, and you can see each world is changed by the presence of these other forces that are in there. You get some other characters that are written in that are very meant to be analogs. The biggest ones being the villainous number one, who is very clearly a Joker pastiche, right down to the fact that in the 1960s world, he has a number two accomplice who is a very clear Harley Quinn character. And it's all done really, really well. This could have been a really simple concept with just some throwaway gags, but it's done so spectacularly well. Even just some basic things, like in the 1960s version of the world, when there's fighting that's happening and the characters are punching, you get the onomatopoeias, you get the bang, pow bubbles that are going up, and when the character, the 1960s one, goes to the Dark Knight Returns world, as he's going, he gets in the first fight scene and nothing happens. The second one that you have, he's just saying it to himself. So you see this fight scene where he's hitting someone and going, he's just saying bang with a period. Pow. Really little things like that to help differentiate the world, but show how the characters go. This is one of my favorite versions of Harley. She's more of that the modern version of the character who is more in charge of herself, wacky but not to the point of lol so random. I've only read volume 1. I've got volume 2 in the mail right now, and I cannot wait for it to come here. I would highly suggest for any fan of multiple versions of Batman that likes an examination of the character, check this out. Our next Batman with a twist is Batman, but what if it was a punk rock fan comic version? This is We Ride at Night, a fan mini comic done by Jesse Lonergan, one of my favorite talents working in comics right now. This is one I picked up at Heroes Con. I don't know that this is officially for sale anywhere because, of course, it is a fan comic. It's not officially licensed by DC. But what you get is this really, really cool story of one night over-the-top Batman action that's set to in my mind, while I was reading this, I just heard Motorhead's Ace of Spades playing and just that hard guitar riff at the beginning, Lemmy singing over. There's no actual character dialogue in this. You just get crazy over-the-top scenes of the different Bat family going, leading up to a situation where you actually get to see some of the Bat family on stage singing at a rock concert. It's just fun, over-the-top action, presented in a really cool way. It actually shows at the beginning the tools that were used, where he's got a library stamp to go ahead and give the effect of the different song lyrics that are happening right there. Jesse's a guy I absolutely adore. His stuff has just been hit after hit after hit for me. This is no exception. This is the kind of fun, big, over-the-top Batman action that fans of the superhero version of the character, I kind of think of, there's two different versions of Batman. There's the one that appears in the Batman comics, where he's the superhero version, and then there's the detective side, who often appears in, you guessed it, detective comics, and then some series like Batman Dark Patterns. This is very much taking the superhero route, where you get the big bombastic version, and again, it's meant to evoke a soundtrack of heavy metal, punk rock, fast shredding, someone shouting into a microphone. And if you're into that kind of Batman, this is absolutely one I would suggest you check out. You're just going to have to get creative in how you figure out how to go ahead and get it. The last twist we're going over here today are going to be Batman comics that don't actually feature Batman. But in order to check those out, you're going to have to go on over to the other channel that I'm on, the Tire Dad Comics Club, where I sit down with my buddy Carl's collection and we go over some different ones there. And I have 3 different Batman comics that don't really feature Batman. It's a cool video. Links down below. Love for you to check it out. But hey, happy Batman Day. I'll see you next time.